Chapter 41 Trade. The night is darkest right before the dawn. If you classify dawn as the moment the sky starts to lighten due to the sun's rays reaching it, and ignoring other conditions such as cloud cover and moon phases, then technically that was true. At any rate, it had been a long and fucking dark night indeed. Dawn did not promise it would get any better. When Jeff's phone rang, the house fell silent. Ryan edged away from the group, instinctively distancing himself from the others. There was a chance he wasn't going to be able to control his reaction to whatever they had to say. The thought alone made him uncomfortable, but it was something he had to keep in mind for the sake of the others. Jeff answered it without a word. It was a one-way video call. Clearly, someone had something to show them. Dark eyes stared back at him from beneath a black hood, mouth and nose covered by a bandana bearing the lower part of a skull. "Where's Red, Ramsey? Don't play dumb. I know you know." The random wasted no time. Jeff was just as curt in reply. "You have my crew. You deal directly with me." "I know it's not your crew to run," they retorted darkly. "Where is she?" "You talk to me, or you don't talk at all. Your choice." There was a long pause. The random looked like they were pacing in a dark hallway. "Relay this to Red, then. My colleagues want a trade. Your boys for her. No negotiations." Jeff looked at Lindsay, who frowned and nodded for him to go with it. The random continued. "You'll get a message with directions. She comes alone. When she arrives at the destination, you'll get a second message with the location of your boys. If you hurry, you should be able to get to them in time." Matt and Trevor looked nervously at each other. Jack was a picture of concern. Jeremy looked openly furious, and Ryan tried his hardest to be unmoved, but the way his eyes narrowed and he pressed his lips together suggested he was barely containing his anger. Jeff's expression was heading towards the same look of open fury on Jeremy's face. He nearly growled, "Why? What do you want with her that you can't get out of them?" "That's for you to take up with my colleagues, I'm afraid." "Oh, but I'll tell you what. They're a lenient bunch. If you're worried about her ratting you out, and you think you can take care of it, they'll take her dead or alive. Or if you're worried about what they'll do to her, after what happened with the vagabond and all." Lindsay froze. Everyone in the room felt the air go still. Ryan's blood ran cold. He bit his tongue hard enough to taste blood and looked away, knowing there were eyes on him. "Your call." "Fuck you! What the fuck have you done to my boys?" Jeff demanded. "I want to see them." The random scoffed. "I'm not a moron. Jesus. Why do you think I made a video call? And don't panic. They're fine." The random pushed a door open, flooding their face with light as they switched to the rear-facing camera, and it took a few moments to adjust. Jeff could see Michael and Gavin. It looked like they were in one of the storage sheds, strapped down to reclined chairs. They looked like they were in pain. When he saw the two hooded figures hunched over their hands, he had an idea why. Gavin's face was contorted in pain. Just seeing it made Jeff's blood boil. "See?" the voice teased over the phone. "Just like I said, they're fine. Well, relatively. For now." Jack peered over Jeff's shoulder as Jeff looked away. He just caught the look on the lads' faces as the randoms got back to work on their hands before the phone was turned back around. They could hear muffled groans and hisses of pain in the background. Even though he could only see their eyes, the smug look on the random's face was unmistakable. Jeff couldn't stop himself, a rage plain in his voice. "If you lay so much as one more finger on my boys, I can assure you that the fake AH crew will personally fucking end you. It will not be quick, and it will not be pleasant." He said it with such authority and assuredness that in that moment no one in the room doubted that was true. "Stop struggling, or it's going in your dick hole." The frustrated threat made by one of the randoms was only just audible, but then Gavin's laughter, on the other hand, was clear through the phone. A voice that was unmistakably Gavin's squawked, "Sounding! Extreme sounding!" Gavin's giggles followed, and soon after Michael could be heard laughing too. It took a second to connect the threat and Gavin's reaction, but as soon as it hit, Jeff roared laughter and the others grinned and giggled. A very pissed-off random snapped back, "You have 2 hours to comply, and you might just get them back alive." Jeff collected himself, but was still laughing. "Yeah, all right, dickheads. Good luck with them in the meantime. Trust me, you'll need it." Even after the show of bravado, it took all the courage he could muster to hang up the phone. "All right, Michael and Gavin are hanging in there," Jeff announced loudly, reminding them all of the positives. "That's the important thing." Everyone was quiet, hopeful, reflective, apprehensive, all of the above. Ryan had braced himself against the doorframe, his mind racing, trying hard to latch on to anything that wasn't a memory of what had been done to him, a vivid visualization of what they would do to Michael or Gavin, or God forbid Lindsay, or that selfish urge to run again, to bury all this deep in his past. He clutched the hilt of his knife like a lifeline, a physical reminder of his purpose and his place in the crew. He was here for them. It was how it was always going to be. Jeff's phone made a buzzing noise, and everyone gathered around the table. Ryan took a steadying breath and joined them. Jeff read the message aloud. 90 minutes until drop-off at point marked. Red only. Others will be shot on sight. Further instructions upon delivery. And there's a map. He scanned over the message and zoomed in on the map, squinting at it skeptically. "Is that Chiansky Passage? Fuck me, goddamn sons of bitches. That place is one way in, no way out." There was a long pause as everyone processed the information. "I'm going." Lindsay said it so bluntly. "What? You can't," Jack protested almost instinctively, before biting his tongue to let Lindsay and Jeff work it out first. "Look, this plays perfectly into our plan. I'll keep them busy while you guys get Michael and Gavin back," Lindsay explained. "It's pretty much what we were planning anyway. And besides, it's for Michael. I'm going." Jeff nodded, reluctantly. "Okay, but I'm coming with you." "Jeff, they said they'd shoot on sight. It's too dangerous. You're not going alone. They're bluffing. They know we won't kill you, and they won't turn down a chance to take both of us alive if there's something they want from us. Plus, Michael would kill me if I let you go alone." "Well," Lindsay conceded, "you're not wrong, but they'll be expecting us to bring backup. They're probably counting on it to take us out. They'll be expecting us to make our stand there." "What makes you so sure, Jeff?" Lindsay asked. The rest of the crew were deadly silent, the same question in everyone's mind. Jeff hesitated. "Because they wanted you. So far, they've been trying to play us against each other. They're trying to exploit our weak spots. They're going for the cracks." Ryan nodded. "That's why they're keeping Michael and Gavin together, I'm sure. Those two are insufferable, and the only reason you wouldn't separate them is if you were trying to." He trailed off, taking a deep breath and letting it out slowly. "These guys are either really dumb, or they know exactly what they're doing, and they have enough information to know how to make us tick." Lindsay took a deep breath and pressed her hands together, holding her fingertips to her lips, almost as if praying. After a moment, she said simply, "We can't let them win." Jeff just nodded. Jack couldn't contain himself any longer. "You know we're going to be walking straight into a trap here, right?" "Wouldn't be the first time." "Yes!" Jeff burst out far too enthusiastically. A plan had been forming in his head as they'd been speaking, quietly ticking over in the background, and was only just beginning to solidify. But the thing is, they know that we know. "Okay, and that helps us how, exactly?" Jack asked, puzzled. "Well, they're going to expect us to pull some kind of trick. They're going to expect us not to play along. But we're going to do everything they ask of us," Jeff went on. The mass confusion was evident on everyone's faces. "But we also know where Michael and Gavin are, and they're not going to be expecting us to turn up there at the same time. We can catch them off guard in two places at once." "How?" Jeremy asked. "We might be able to get to Michael and Gavin, but if it's just you and Lindsay heading out to the drop, you guys are going to be outnumbered, and they'll have you exactly where they want you. Besides, who knows how many are going to be guarding Michael and Gavin? Even we might be outnumbered." Jeff nodded, understanding but not showing any concern. "Which is why I'm calling in some favors. What we're going to pull isn't a heist. No, what we need is a cunning stunt." He seemed a little too proud of that. The crew had readied up as much as they were able in the time they had. Andy and Mika had made countless phone calls, pulled all the strings, and had a cargo bob on standby, already loaded with weapons and explosives. Steffi was on her way to the safe house to set up a working base of operations and keep an eye on Ryan's cat. Ryan had painted his face, looking fiercer than ever with his long, dyed hair tied back in a ponytail. As he donned his jacket and slipped his knife onto his belt, it felt a lot like coming home. Jeremy, Matt, and Trevor had gone through their usual pre-heist routine, taking inventory and going over creative exit strategies and backup plans, but with so many unknowns in play, there was only so much they could do. A lot of this was going to be improvising. Lindsay, Jeff, and Jack had been going over scenarios, trying to plan for anything, but after a while, they just had to accept they'd done all they could. Jack, you think you can fly? Jeff asked, gesturing to his arm, which had been tended by Lindsay and Andy, who had turned out to be surprisingly helpful in a range of things. Unfortunately, there wasn't much that could be done for it. There was a good chance he'd torn some ligaments, and it was still not cooperating. He'd just have to hope it healed over time, which put flying out of the question for now. Jack shook his head. Need 2 hands to operate a chopper. Draco's a pretty good pilot, though. In a Bezra, maybe. He can't pilot choppers for shit, Jeff mused, wishing he was exaggerating. Ryan's good with a chopper, Jack suggested. Jeff shook his head. I want you guys to be able to get out of there as quickly as possible, and there's no chance he's waiting in the chopper. Mika can fly, Lindsay declared, taking on the authoritative boss tone she'd picked up from Jeff. Andy can assist. Jack, you stay on the comms, coordinate them. God knows they need it sometimes, and besides, they'll listen to you. Jack raised an eyebrow, not entirely sure that was true. He nodded, though, because damned if he'd be left behind. Lindsay continued. So you, Mika, and Andy take Trevor, Matt, Jeremy, and Ryan to Sandy Shores and wait for our instruction. You guys will wait in the cargo bob and stand by for evac and medical. We don't know what kind of condition they'll come back in. Her voice caught a little at the end, and she cleared her throat before going on. Do not let the guys go in before we give the all clear. Jeff, you and me, we cooperate as far as we can. Keep them focused on us. I have some of the team working on exit strategies for us, so we'll have options. But we need to know what we're dealing with. We gotta try to get as much information out of them as we can before we move. Jeff and Jack both nodded in unison. It was high time they figured out exactly what was going on. Steffi's on her way over to set up. If things go bad, we radio her. She knows what to do. Lindsay took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. All right, I'm going to go catch up the others. Jeff nodded solemnly. Thanks, Lindsay. We got this. Lindsay left Jeff and Jack in anxious silence. I don't know if I like this plan, Jack protested quietly, shaking his head. It's too risky, Jeff. We can't. Jeff sighed and put a hand on Jack's good shoulder. I know. Believe me, I know. But this is a high-stakes game. We gotta go all in or they'll call our bluff. We gotta give the others the best chance we can to get Michael and Gavin back. Jack winced. I still don't like it, Jeff. Sorry, buddy, but that's how it's gotta be. Jeff sounded almost pained and genuinely apologetic. But look, if anything happens to us, you're in charge, okay? Jack was shocked. What the fuck? No, Jeff! Jack, shut the fuck up. You don't get a choice here. I know you can do this. It came from a place of love, but it made Jack uneasy. If anything happens, you get him back, okay? Jack looked defeated. Okay. Fucking promise me. Jack shook his head. Yeah, I promise, Jeff. Jeff looked relieved. Thank you. Lindsay emerged from what had been dubbed the control room, Mika and Andy following close behind her. Jeremy, Matt, Trevor, and Ryan were all hanging in the doorway, geared up to go. Jeff nodded at all of them. All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling. The first set of collection bags filled quickly with blood, and the short random changed them out for new ones without too much fuss, labeling them and placing them on a table next to their chairs. So we can put it back in you if your crew comes through, they explained, although something about it had seemed off. When the bags filled again, all 3 of the randoms returned to the room. The bald one and the shorter one were mid-conversation as they each changed a bag. What would be your go-to? What would you want to do first? The bald one asked. The shorter one paused pensively. I'm a slut for vivisection. Michael would have laughed if they'd not been referring to him and Gavin. Me too. The other's eyes lit up, but then looked away as if disappointed. Probably shouldn't. We're supposed to leave them in good condition. Might send them into shock. Their voice suddenly picked up again. If the deal goes south, though, I'd totally be up for that. If the deal goes south, you two can do whatever you want with them. Just make sure you film it for the others, and save me any trophies, the skull-faced one called from near the doorway. The shorter one let out an excited chuckle. We'd have to keep them awake, though, right? So they could watch each other. Michael's skin crawled. Gavin looked like he was going to be sick, but he'd been looking like that for a while. It may have just been the effect of blood loss. Michael was worried for him. Of course, the other said plainly. It wouldn't be nearly as much fun otherwise. If you're trying to creep us out, Michael cut in, I got news for you. It ain't working. The skull-faced one giggled. I mean, I wish I could say that's what they're doing, but truth is, they're always like this. They shrugged and motioned for them to move it outside. The worst part was there was nothing he could do. If they'd been physically hurting Gavin, he could have shouted profanities at them, words of support to him, gotten angry in all the ways he was familiar with. But this was slow and subtle and cold and left him feeling so fucking helpless and almost numb as he watched Gavin slowly fade. He was angry, but with Gavin's energy draining, he couldn't justify the outburst. He couldn't keep it up long either. He was getting progressively weaker himself. Gavin had been quiet for some time. His breathing seemed to have gotten shallower. Michael's heart fluttered in his chest. Gavin, how you doing, boy? He asked quietly. Gavin hummed in response, barely loud enough to register. Don't worry, Gavin. They'll be here soon. They're coming for us. I know they are. Gavin made a little huff and smiled sleepily, closing his eyes again. Can't let him give up hope. Gav, you don't have to say anything. Just listen to my voice, okay? Gavin nodded slightly. Just gotta stay with me, okay? Hold on, boy. We're gonna be okay.